You have lived beside them for years. You've watched them cross the same fence line every morning, bury what they carry in the same soft corner of the lawn, chase each other up the same oak until the bark went smooth. You have seen hundreds of squirrels in your yard, maybe thousands if you ever truly counted. And in all of those years, through all of those squirrels, you have never once found a dead one. You've probably told yourself the obvious thing, that the body was there and you simply missed it, that you weren't looking on the right morning. But that isn't what's happening, not even close. The truth is far more deliberate, far more hidden, and far stranger than a body you failed to notice. Because the squirrels in your yard are not slipping away to die somewhere else. They are dying right here, close to you. You were just never meant to find them. This is the squirrel mind, where we take one small, quiet thing about the animal outside your window, and we follow it all the way down to where it actually leads. If this kind of stillness is something you want more of, you can subscribe and stay a while. Today we're walking towards something most people spend their whole lives not thinking about. We're going to follow a squirrel all the way to the end of its life, to the exact place it goes, the forces that erase every trace of it, and the strange, almost tender reason the world is built to keep that ending hidden from you. And stay until the very end, because the last thing, what a squirrel does in its final hours, when some part of it understands, will quietly change the way you hear the silence of your own yard. Number 1, the squirrels you watch are not the same squirrels you watched. Here is something most people never let themselves realize. The gray squirrel in your yard is far more fragile than its boldness makes it look. Wildlife biologists who follow wild populations have found that a large share of squirrels never survive their first year. Many don't last their first few months outside the nest. They are taken by hawks, by cars, by cold nights, by hunger in a thin season, by the simple bad luck of one missed jump between two branches. A squirrel that does make it into adulthood might live 5 or 6 years, occasionally longer. But the average life out there is short, far shorter than the span of years you've spent quietly watching your yard. And what that means is something most people never stop to feel. The regulars you think you know, the bold one at the feeder, the cautious one on the wire, the one with the notched ear you'd recognize anywhere, they have been replaced, again and again, by their own young, while you watched and never noticed the change. Your yard has never hosted a single, steady cast of characters. It has hosted a relay, a long line of separate lives, handed forward one to the next, so seamlessly that you never once saw the baton change hands. The face was always a little different. You only ever saw the squirrel. But that only sharpens the real question. If so many are dying, and dying so constantly, then where exactly do all of the bodies go? Number 2, a squirrel that is dying does not come to you. It goes the other way. This is the part that feels almost human. A squirrel is a prey animal, and a prey animal cannot afford to ever look weak. For its entire life, every instinct it carries repeats the same warning. Do not show that you are slowing, because the instant you do, something is already watching. So when a squirrel falls sick, or takes an injury, or simply grows old, it does not weaken out in the open where you'd see it. It withdraws, it hides. It climbs to its dray, that round bundle of leaves you've seen wedged high in the bare winter branches. Or it presses deep into a hollow in a trunk, a den it has known and trusted for years. And there in the dark, sealed inside the tree, it grows quiet. Researchers who study squirrel disease see the same pattern. A sick animal pulls back from the world and tucks itself away, long before the end. The death you spent years never finding may have happened 10 feet above your head, behind a patch of bark you walk past without a glance, every single day. And what that means for your yard is something softer than it first sounds. The silence up there was never emptiness. It was a door, closing quietly in a place you were never able to see. And the moment that door closes, something else begins. Something fast and very old. Number 3. The yard you think you know quietly runs a night shift. When an animal dies outdoors, it does not simply lie there, waiting for you to discover it. It enters a system, one of the oldest and most efficient systems nature has. Within hours, the cleanup begins. Crows and ravens, who miss almost nothing that happens in the open. Opossums and raccoons and foxes that move through your yard long after your last light goes out. And beneath all of them, the smaller, quieter work. Beetles, ants, and the patient chemistry of decay that, in summer warmth, can take a small body back in little more than a day. Ecologists will tell you that nothing in a forest is ever wasted. And your yard, whether you ever thought of it this way or not, is a small forest with a fence around it. A squirrel that dies in the open at dusk is very often gone by sunrise. Not vanished, not stolen, returned, folded back into the same living ground that fed it by the things that were always going to reclaim it in the end. So the absence you've quietly noticed all these years isn't really a mystery about where the bodies go. It's a measure of something else entirely, of how completely and how fast the world takes its own back. But not every squirrel dies where it falls. Some are gone long before they ever touch the ground. Number 4. Most squirrels do not die of old age at all. They are taken. The hardest truth hidden underneath the calm of your yard is this. A squirrel lives its entire life inside a hunt that never really pauses. A hawk drops out of an open sky in less than a second. An owl arrives in total silence after dark, on wings built to make no sound. And when that strike finally lands, the squirrel does not stay behind in your grass. It is carried up to a high perch or off to a distant den to be eaten somewhere you will never think to look. This is the real reason the ending stays invisible. In so many cases, the death didn't happen in your yard and then get cleaned away. The death happened, and then it left, lifted up and over your fence line, into a tree you have never climbed, in less time than it takes to read this single sentence. The only place you reliably see a dead squirrel is the roadside, and even that is just death caught in the one spot too open and too sudden for the wild to hide. And what that means for your yard is gentler than it might first feel. The squirrel that disappeared did not crawl off to suffer alone in some forgotten corner. It was simply pulled back into something far older than your yard, a quiet balance that asks every single life out there, in the end, to become another. Which leaves only the last kind of ending, the quietest one of all, the one I asked you to stay for. Number 5. When a squirrel knows, it chooses to be alone. There is no secret graveyard. People have searched for one for centuries, some hidden, sacred place where the animals all go to die together, the way we've always imagined elephants do. It doesn't exist. And the reason it doesn't is stranger and far quieter than any graveyard could ever be. A squirrel, in its final hours, does the very same thing it has done every day of its life. It seeks cover. It finds the safest, darkest, most familiar place it has ever known, the hollow it was born beside, the den where it once raised its own young, and it simply stops. No sound, no struggle anyone will witness, just a slow folding inward in the one place in the whole world that was built so nothing could watch. That is the real reason you have never found one. Not because death somehow skips your yard, but because, for a squirrel, dying is the most private thing it will ever do. The same instinct to hide that carried it safely through every hawk, every hard winter, every close call in the road. It stays faithfully with the animal all the way to the very end. It conceals its weakness one final time, and then it is simply gone. So think back now to the yard you started this with, the one where you had never found a single body, and quietly assumed that you had just kept missing it. You hadn't missed anything at all. There was never a body left out in the open for you to find. Every ending happened exactly where it was always meant to, sealed inside a tree, lifted up into the sky, or taken gently back by the dark, long before your morning ever came. What you have always read as absence was never absence. It was concealment, a kind of privacy the wild quietly gives its own. Most people will live their entire lives in arm's length from these animals and never once wonder where they go. You know now, and the next time your yard goes still, the next time a familiar face stops coming to the fence and doesn't come back the way it used to, you won't feel that small, cold question anymore. You'll understand the quiet. You'll know it didn't simply vanish. You'll know it went home, the way they always have, to the one place that was only ever theirs. And before you go, I'd like to hear from you. Have you ever found something out there you couldn't quite explain? An old nest? A still shape down in the leaves? A squirrel that came back one season, somehow changed? Tell me about it below. I read every single one, and I'll see you in the next one.